Hello, my name is Alexander Naismith, and welcome to my tutoring project. The first day is always nerve-wracking. On the way to Wilson Middle School, I couldn't help but feel nervous, excited, and worried. There are many different things that I didn't know, such as what to expect, the student I'd be paired with, or even what the student's interests were. Did he enjoy traveling? What was his favorite type of music? Did he even enjoy reading? The first thing I decided to do was to have David fill out an interest survey. I needed to know what he enjoyed, whether it be TV shows, sports, hobbies, anything. Toward the bottom of the survey, it asks more specific questions about genres. This helped me find a starting place. The first book I chose was sports related, which I hoped would grab his interest. And it did, right from the beginning. David was engaged in the reading and sped right through it. I was surprised. I didn't think it would be that easy. And it wasn't. I noticed small problems. He failed to pause at commas and periods, and David also struggled with recalling small details from the story. Recalling details was the initial problem that I decided to tackle. I believed that this would be the easiest with the simple solution of slowing David down. By slowing down, David was able to concentrate more on the story instead of just reading the words. However, this was not the only strategy that I employed with David. It was a little bit more work, but I had him write down details as we read, even if they seemed insignificant at the time. He wrote down setting, characters, even summaries of what just occurred in the book. By having David write, it forced him to contemplate what was going on in the story and allowed him to build a mental image. Soon David was writing down very specific details, such as the brand of sneakers briefly mentioned, the time of day that the basketball game was held, even the quotes that characters had said. It is remarkable to see how much he had grown and remembered from each session to the next. It wasn't until we reached the second book that I noticed his vocabulary problem. He simply didn't know the sailor jargon, which I cannot blame him for. It's difficult for me to remember as well. I learned from the previous problem that David learns best when he writes things down, so I decided to have him write down the jargon that we encounter and write down two things. The first being the definition that he thinks of based off the context of the story so far. The second being the actual definition. I had hoped that this would help him remember the jargon, which in turn would help him better understand the story. However, it didn't work as well as I would have liked. Learning the vocab wasn't simply enough. He needed more. So I decided a map of the ship would help him visualize it. By creating an actual map, I hoped it would help David see where the characters were during each of the chapters of the book. We ended up looking at actual pictures of a schooner, which the story takes place on, and tried to make a map of the interior based off of the story. This was a wonderful experience. Not only did this help David understand some of the vocabulary, but also helped him follow the story better. However, this experience not only helped him, it taught me an important lesson about the different types of learners. Students don't just learn with one type of learning style. Students are not visual or auditory learners. They're both. Coming into this year, I did not have a clear definition of what reading literacy was. However, over the past few weeks, I have realized that reading literacy is not simply how well students can read. Rather, it is how students understand and reflect on the content they have just read. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Created using Powtoon.